Advice. Overall, Peter approaches the problem in too static and simplistic a manner. Why should the competence for a given position be considered a constant? If the human resource management system in place is effective, regulatory performance measures should be followed by interviews with officials and staff training to increase the efficiency of their work. Of course, this presents several disadvantages. Firstly, we need relevant key performance indicators to determine the quality of work as objectively as possible. In the case of a seller, would be sufficient, for example, to simply measure the number of potential customers who entered the store. More and more shops are installing sensors for this purpose, the amount collected by the seller and the relationship between the two. However, the calculation of performance is more risky when it comes to measuring the quality of work produced by a civil servant or an office worker. Peter himself, when speaking of incompetence, gives the impression that it is based more on a widespread feeling than on specific indicators. Secondly, an effective human resource system and training are more difficult to implement and more expensive than simply measuring employee performance and directly promoting the right employee based on past experience. Whether the Peter hypothesis is true or not, managers may consider the hierarchy in two opposite ways. If each function and the skills related to it are clearly defined, it is much simpler to implement key performance indicators and assess performance. If, on the contrary, some uncertainty is deliberately left regarding the tasks that each employee must carry out, it is much easier to relieve a worker of some of the tasks for which he is not competent, but this has a considerable impact on efficiency. Moreover, it is possible to make workers more mobile by removing the ratchet FFECT. Demotions are more common than Peter seems to believe. When the Peter hypothesis does not hold. If the Peter hypothesis is not verified, then the common sense system, which involves promoting the best workers, usually set up by organizations if fully efficient. It has the double advantage of motivating employees to scramble to perform better in the hope of getting a promotion, saving the organization money on training, as they themselves will make every effort to acquire the skill level required for the superior position. When the Peter hypothesis holds true. On the other hand, it is much more problematic if the Peter hypothesis proves to be true. If the most incompetent workers are promoted, this should be done discreetly due to the risk of demotivating employees. It is also necessary to focus on financial incentives and refrain from using the promotion system as a reward. This way of considering and giving promotions has its limitations, since it generates significant costs for the organization and does not find the person best suited for the position. Finally, if the Peter hypothesis corresponds to the reality of the organizations and the ratchet effect is as fixed as he believes, the only real solution is to support employees as effectively as possible by measuring the skills needed, motivating them and training them. This costs the organization much more than if the only competition experienced between employees made them competent at all levels of the hierarchy.